You know, and I've made this comment many times too, if an area is attractive, we'll be there.
Now it's March 24th, 1989. It's midnight.
We have the Exxon Valdez aground at Bly Reef.
So much oil was coming out that it was actually higher than the sea level surface. It just tore the bottom of the hull apart.
The hitman who went in to deal with the problem was Lee Raymond. That's how he cut his teeth.
Safety requires a lot of attention to detail.
Exxon mounted an incredible public relations spectacle, also known as the cleanup. We had been promised full containment, and oil spill cleanup equipment would be on the water, deployed and operating to contain and corral and clean up the spill within 6 hours. When I flew over the spill about 9 hours after, I didn't even see so much as a handkerchief in the water. Oil moved from the water to the beaches. So Exxon's like, okay, we have to do something. People were sitting on the beach wiping rocks.
Getting some activity going, okay? It's just real important that this morning it looks like we're making some progress.
And then we got the idea, well, it's a dirty beach, so let's hose down the beaches. Let's see if we can move the oil down the beach. Well, we went from cold water to warm water, gradually to hot water. If you want to stew up some nice mussels for dinner, I mean, what do? You steam them. And Exxon was using water that was at the level of steam. We're literally killing the beach while trying to save it. Exxon's own scientists came forward and said, we are wiping out the beaches. We have to stop it. And Exxon told these scientists, it is politically unstoppable. It looks like we're doing something. And that was it. Looks. This was a total PR, public relations charade. Exxon hired its own service providers, oil field service provider, Vico, to do the primary contracting and cleanup work. Well, Vico from that netted, I think it was $38 million in net profit, and it bought the state's second largest newspaper and proceeded to fill it with propaganda about how the beaches in Prince William Sound had recovered just fine and how animals are thriving in Prince William Sound.
Exxon also paid directly for media production, like this film from the Alaska Visitors Association. Way before the long-term effects of the spill could even be established, Exxon was funding their own favorable conclusions, denying harm and responsibility. Why? To quell public anger and position themselves for upcoming lawsuits. Unfortunately for Exxon, there was no denying the harm caused by the Valdez spill.
This $5 billion is what a jury of ordinary people decided in looking at the information that was presented in court. They decided that this was fair.
Exxon's been fighting and tying up the courts with appeals since 1994, so for 12 years.
So people who were counting on getting compensated for their harm back in '89, and then the fisheries started to fail, the pink salmon, the herring, we were looking at maybe that punitive damage as compensatory to make us whole, which is what Exxon promised us. Suddenly that's always out of reach. We can never quite grasp it because Exxon keeps moving it with its appeals process.
In the meantime, 6,000 of the plaintiffs have died, having never received a penny of the $5 billion award. Exxon attorneys contend that at most they owe the fishermen another $25 million. Divided up among about 24,000 surviving plaintiffs, that comes to $1,042 each. Spread out over more than 17 years, that comes to less than $59 apiece per year and still dropping.
When the penalty for harm is lower than the potential profit from causing that harm, then essentially it becomes a business expense.
The damage done to people and wildlife from the spill itself was more than bad enough. But that's not the end of the story. Many of the Valdez cleanup workers have experienced health issues since the spill.
I had people pretty much calling me starting in May, and they would sound like Darth Vader on the phone. You could hear this labored, heavy breathing. People were using these high-pressure hot water hoses to spray the beach. The spray was hitting the beach with such force that it aerosolized the oil up into the air and people breathed it. Each of these bars represents a number of sick people for every week that the Exxon Valdez high-pressure hot wash cleanup was in effect. Their, mandate is to make shareholders rich, and if they can do it by, stomping all over these smaller companies and communities that they injure, tough.